What are nakshatras in Vedic astrology? Nakshatras are the ancient star divisions of the zodiac, deeply rooted in the astronomical sky and essential to Vedic astrology. Unlike the 12 zodiac signs that are solar in nature and seasonal, nakshatras are lunar divisions based on the moon's daily motion and the visible constellations. There are 27 primary nakshatras, each covering 13 degrees and 20 minutes of the 360-degree zodiac, forming the precise framework for lunar-based predictions. From a star perspective, each nakshatra corresponds to one or more fixed stars or visible star clusters. For instance, Rohini is anchored to Aldebaran, the red eye of Taurus, Magha is tied to Regulus, the brightest star in Leo, and Jyeshtha links to Antares, the heart of the Scorpion. These are not symbolic associations. They are actual coordinates in the night sky that the ancients observed and codified into astrological meaning. This sky mapping method makes Vedic astrology one of the most astronomically accurate systems in the world. The moon, being the fastest moving planet in Vedic astrology, spends roughly one day in each nakshatra. This movement gives the nakshatras their emotional flavor. Your moon's nakshatra at birth is called your Janma Nakshatra, and it reveals your emotional nature, instincts, mental tendencies, and karmic imprint. This is why the nakshatra is central to dasha calculations, compatibility, and timing life events. What makes nakshatras so powerful is that each one is more than just a set of degrees. They are celestial fields of meaning. Every nakshatra has a ruling deity, a symbolic animal, a planetary ruler, and a specific psychological function or Shakti, power. These sky sectors act as energetic portals or karmic windows through which your destiny unfolds. The stars are not just background, they are active forces. Astronomically, the concept of nakshatras predates the 12-sign solar zodiac. Ancient Vedic seers used star risings and lunar conjunctions with fixed stars to determine sacred timings, agricultural cycles, and ceremonial rituals. This means that nakshatras originally evolved from a stellar calendar system, grounded in nature and sky observation, not just philosophy. Modern astronomy confirms the brilliance of this system. The positions of these star clusters still align with the nakshatra system, as Vedic astrology uses a sidereal, fixed star, zodiac, not a moving tropical one. So while Western astrology may say your moon is in Sagittarius, Vedic astrology might place it in Mula Nakshatra, at the galactic center, a powerful point of transformation and destruction. This connection to real stars means nakshatras help us reclaim the original astrology, where celestial bodies weren't abstract energies, but literal cosmic influences. As you watch the sky and track the moon, you're also tracking your mood, your karma, and your spiritual progress. That's the beauty of nakshatra-based astrology. It's emotional, ancient, predictive, and rooted in starlight. So when you look up at the night sky, remember, those constellations are not just stars. They're the living libraries of your soul's journey, encoded in the nakshatras. While Western astrology is based on the tropical zodiac, which aligns the signs with the seasons, Aries begins at the spring equinox, Vedic astrology uses the sidereal zodiac, which aligns the signs with the actual constellations in the sky. This creates a crucial divergence. Over centuries, due to the precession of the equinoxes, the tropical zodiac has drifted away from the fixed stars. In contrast, nakshatras remain firmly tied to the visible sky, preserving the original astronomical alignment. This means that in Western astrology, the focus is more solar, centered on sun sign traits, seasonal cycles, and psychological archetypes. But in Vedic astrology, nakshatras bring a deeper emotional and karmic precision, especially because they're tied to the moon's motion, which governs the mind, instincts, and subtle body. So while the sun represents identity, the moon reveals how we process life emotionally, and this is where nakshatras offer their richest insights. Another major distinction lies in predictive astrology. Western systems often rely on transits and progressions, but Vedic astrology uses the Vimshottari Dasha system, which is completely based on the nakshatra the moon occupied at birth. This Dasha system divides your life into planetary periods, unfolding like chapters in a karmic storybook. The moon's nakshatra determines not just how you feel, but what type of experiences you'll magnetize in certain phases of life. Moreover, each nakshatra has its own symbolism and mythic context, providing a layer of spiritual narrative absent in Western systems. For example, Ashwini is ruled by the twin horsemen, the Ashwini Kumaras, gods of healing and initiation. Bharani is ruled by Yama, the god of death and dharma. These aren't abstract figures. They represent archetypal energies that shape how you meet life's themes, like leadership, destruction, nurturing, or transcendence. Western astrology might tell you that your moon in Sagittarius makes you adventurous or philosophical, but Vedic astrology will ask, is it in Mula Nakshatra, with roots in destruction and transformation? Or in Purva Ashada, linked to Apa, the water goddess, and the power to purify and uplift? These distinctions go beyond personality. They speak to your soul's evolutionary intention. The nakshatras also add granularity to timing, known as muhurta, electional astrology. In Vedic traditions, no major life event, marriage, childbirth, business launch, is initiated without checking the moon's current nakshatra. This is because each nakshatra has a specific energy. Some are good for beginnings, others for endings, travel, warfare, or healing. Western astrology doesn't traditionally offer this kind of minute-by-minute cosmic mapping. Ultimately, the nakshatra system reflects the Vedic approach to life as a spiritual journey shaped by karma and dharma. It doesn't just tell you who you are, it tells you why you are here, what you're working through, and which divine archetype governs your path. In contrast, Western astrology often centers around psychological integration, whereas Vedic astrology, and nakshatras in particular, focuses on spiritual integration and karmic unfolding. In the modern age, as we seek more personalized, precise, and spiritually resonant tools of self-awareness, nakshatras are being rediscovered by students and seekers across the globe. Their power lies in their ability to blend astronomy, mythology, psychology, and karma, all through the lens of stars that have guided humanity for millennia. Nakshatras are not just tools for prediction. They are living blueprints of human nature, mapping everything from your psychological behavior and personality traits to your physical body type, emotional tendencies, and even the karmic lessons your soul has chosen for this lifetime. Each nakshatra acts like a cosmic fingerprint, offering multi-layered insight that goes far beyond what zodiac signs alone can reveal. At the most personal level, your Janma Nakshatra, the nakshatra where the moon was placed at the time of your birth, reflects your mind's conditioning, your emotional temperament, and your default mode of reacting to life. For example, someone born under Ashlasha may display intense emotional intelligence, secrecy, and coiled inner power, much like its serpent symbolism. On the other hand, someone with the moon in Pushya is naturally nurturing, devotional, and service-oriented, with a grounded and structured emotional core. From a body-based perspective, classical Vedic texts and nakshatra lore also describe physical attributes associated with each star segment. For instance, Bharani natives often have well-developed sensuous bodies, strong appetites, and intense magnetic eyes, reflecting their rulership by Venus and deity Yama, who governs life and death. Rohini natives, ruled by the moon and associated with growth and fertility, are typically attractive, charming, and physically well-proportioned, often drawing admiration effortlessly. But where nakshatras go even deeper is in their connection to the soul's evolutionary journey. Each nakshatra has a built-in Shakti, a unique power or capacity. This Shakti reveals what the soul is here to master or express in this incarnation. For example, Chitra Nakshatra has the Shakti to accumulate merit through righteous action, making its natives driven toward creative excellence and ethical leadership. Mula, ruled by Niriti, the goddess of dissolution, has the power to ruin or break apart, not as a curse, but as a soul-level calling to dismantle illusions and seek root truth. That's why nakshatras are often used in soul path readings, especially through D60, Shastyamsa, or Atmakaraka-based analysis, because they provide the mythic and karmic architecture beneath your physical reality. In fact, the ancient seers saw nakshatras as divine gateways, each one a portal between human life and cosmic intelligence. The deity, symbol, and story attached to a nakshatra are not just cultural myths. They are archetypal energies shaping your fate and free will. Nakshatras also inform our relationships and compatibility, not just through moon sign matching, but through deep energetic resonance. For example, the nakshatra-based Kuda system evaluates factors like mental compatibility Gana, emotional bonding Tara, and longevity of the bond Yoni. These aren't symbolic, they're based on how your emotional rhythms, shaped by your moon's nakshatra, flow with another's. A Chitra native might crave independence and intellectual stimulation, while a Revati person may seek softness and emotional depth. Even your vocation, talents, and ideal environment can be extracted from nakshatra analysis. Someone born under Shatabisha, ruled by Rahu and linked with Varuna, is drawn toward medicine, healing, esoteric sciences, and working in solitary or unconventional environments. In contrast, a Magha native thrives in leadership roles tied to ancestry, legacy, and upholding tradition. These soul paths are not random. They are karmically designed via the nakshatra system. So when we say nakshatras reveal human nature, it's not just a surface-level personality sketch. It's an encoded map of your body, mind, soul, and destiny. It integrates physical form, emotional function, psychological structure, and spiritual blueprint, making it one of the most holistic tools in Vedic astrology. In essence, the nakshatras don't just describe who you are, they remind you of why you are here. The basics of Pushya Nakshatra. Pushya Nakshatra is the 8th lunar mansion in Vedic astrology, spanning from 3D20 to 16-40 Cancer. The name Pushya means to nourish, to thrive, or to blossom, and it is universally regarded as one of the most auspicious nakshatras, deeply associated with nurturing, growth, discipline, and protection. Its primary symbol is the cow's udder, representing sustenance, maternal care, and unconditional support. In Vedic tradition, Pushya is known for offering emotional strength, spiritual discipline, and selfless service, making it a nakshatra of divine nourishment in every sense. Mythological deity. The ruling deity of Pushya is Brihaspati, Guru, the preceptor of the gods and the embodiment of wisdom, ethics, and dharma. Brihaspati governs divine knowledge, sacred rituals, and the transmission of higher truth. Under his influence, Pushya natives carry a deep commitment to duty, morality, and protection of others. This connection gives the nakshatra a powerful spiritual and advisory quality, often producing individuals who guide, teach, or support others in service-based or devotional capacities. Shakti, power. Pushya's Shakti is called Brahmavarchasha Shakti, which is the power to create spiritual energy and uplift others through discipline and devotion. This Shakti enables the native to channel higher knowledge into daily action, to live a life that is in alignment with divine purpose, and to sustain those around them through unwavering support and inner strength. Pushya is not flashy, it is silent strength, earned wisdom, and the ability to uplift through calm steadiness. Ruler Pushya is ruled by Saturn, a planet of discipline, commitment, patience, and structure. Saturn's influence brings seriousness, responsibility, and karmic awareness to the nurturing nature of Cancer. This unique combination creates a nakshatra where love is expressed through duty, loyalty, and spiritual maturity. While Saturn may delay gratification or emotional expression, it also grants the native depth, endurance, and the ability to protect others with tireless devotion. Span and star reference. Span, 3D20, 16-40 Cancer. Star reference. The main star associated with Pushya is Gamma Cancri, Acellus Borealis, part of the Cancer constellation. These stars are not exceptionally bright, but are symbolically powerful, linked to maternal energy, lunar nurturing, and soul-level guidance. Astronomically, they lie near the beehive cluster, Precipi, a symbol of collective harmony, care, and sacred protection, the 4 padas of Pushya Nakshatra. Each pada of Pushya reflects a refined dimension of nurturing wisdom, emotional service, and dharmic action, shaped by the underlying Navamsa disposition. Pada 1, 3-20, 6-40 Cancer. Navamsa, Leo, dispositor, Sun. Star reference, near Acellus Borealis. Nature, noble, protective, caregiving leaders. This pada blends nourishment with dignity and radiance. Natives here care through strength and visibility, often assuming leadership in spiritual, family, or social circles. Pada 2, 6-40 to 10 Cancer. Navamsa, Virgo, dispositor Mercury. Star reference, Mid-Cancer region. Nature, analytical, ritualistic, service-oriented. This is the most detail-oriented and devotional expression of Pushya. Natives thrive in healthcare, teaching, healing, or sacred service, using logic and as spiritual tools. Hada 3, 10 to 20 Cancer. Navamsa, Venus. Star reference, near the beehive cluster. Nature, harmonious, aesthetically sensitive, emotionally balanced. These individuals bring beauty, emotional diplomacy, and gentleness to Pushya's nurturing nature. They often support others through emotional intelligence, art, or mediation. Pada 4, 13°20, 16°40, Cancer. Scorpio, Mars, star reference, Cancer's trailing stars. Nature, intense, loyal, emotionally protective. The deepest and most emotionally intense expression of Pushya. These natives are guardians of emotional truth, capable of sacrificing deeply for those they love, often drawn to psychology, mysticism, or crisis caregiving. Pushya Nakshatra represents the divine archetype of the nourisher, protector, and spiritual guide. Its natives are emotionally wise, karmically responsible, and gifted with the ability to heal and hold space through quiet service and unwavering commitment. While not dramatic or attention-seeking, their impact is enduring, and their lives are often shaped by spiritual duty, ethical living, and the sacred art of nurturing others. Pushya is the cosmic reminder that true strength lies in steady love, silent wisdom, and selfless care. Pushya Nakshatra characteristics. Pushya natives are nurturing, disciplined, and spiritually mature individuals who radiate a quiet strength rooted in service, stability, and emotional responsibility. Governed by Saturn and presided over by Brihaspati, Jupiter in deity form, these individuals embody the fusion of spiritual wisdom and grounded discipline. They are not loud or dramatic, but they are reliable, calm, and deeply protective, especially toward those they love or feel karmically tied to. Their emotional world is steady, built more on duty and devotion than fleeting emotion. Psychologically, Pushya natives are serious, introspective, and emotionally contained. They value structure, routine, and predictability, especially in relationships. Their default emotional mode is caregiving through action, providing, guiding, protecting, not necessarily through grand verbal expressions. They are usually slow to trust, but once committed, they form lifelong bonds. Their internal compass is rooted in ethics, tradition, and karmic loyalty, which can make them both steadfast and resistant to change. In relationships, Pushya individuals are loyal, dependable, and emotionally resilient, but not always emotionally expressive. They are often seen as spiritual or emotional anchors, the ones people turn to in moments of confusion or crisis. Their love is shown through consistent presence, problem-solving, and silent sacrifice. However, they may struggle with emotional vulnerability or softness, sometimes retreating behind duty when deeper sharing is needed. Creatively, Pushya people express themselves through healing, guidance, or devotion. They may be drawn to teaching, nursing, spiritual counseling, or community welfare, where their natural inclination to serve finds its truest expression. Their creativity is often ritualistic, subtle, or spiritually inspired. They may be drawn to classical music, scriptural study, vastu, traditional design, or philosophical writing. Everything they create tends to be purposeful, enduring, and value-driven. Professionally, Pushya natives excel in careers that demand structure, consistency, and ethical responsibility. They are well-suited to roles in education, governance, medicine, law, spiritual leadership, or social work. Their Saturnian influence makes them excellent at long-term planning, maintaining order, and supporting collective systems. They are the quiet stabilizers who make things run, often without needing recognition. Socially, Pushya individuals may come across as reserved, traditional, or conservative, but they are deeply dependable and respected for their integrity. They may not seek large social circles, preferring intimate, meaningful connections, especially with family, elders, or spiritual peers. They tend to attract people in need of guidance or emotional stability and are often seen as wise beyond their years, even in youth. Emotionally, Pushya natives have a high tolerance for emotional labor, often taking on caretaker roles within their families or communities. But this can lead to over-responsibility and emotional suppression. They must learn to prioritize their own emotional nourishment, not just give endlessly to others. At times, their stoic nature may prevent them from fully accessing their own softness and healing needs. At a soul level, Pushya Nakshatra represents the cosmic archetype of the nurturer and guardian of Dharma. These individuals are here to stabilize, protect, and uplift, not through force, but through consistency, humility, and service. Their karmic journey is about learning to balance duty with emotional receptivity, and to understand that true spiritual strength lies in gentle, grounded care. Pushya reminds us that holding space for others is a sacred act, and that real love often looks like quiet, patient endurance. Planets in Pushya Nakshatra. When the sun is in Pushya Nakshatra, it brings a sense of dignified responsibility and quiet leadership. These individuals lead through service, protection, and moral consistency, rather than ambition or showmanship. They are often respected elders, advisors, or teachers who uphold tradition, spiritual values, or family structure. The sun in Pushya may suppress ego in favor of duty, making these natives appear humble yet authoritative. However, if afflicted, they may become too rigid, dogmatic, or emotionally closed, needing to soften their control through compassion. The moon in Pushya is considered one of the most auspicious lunar placements in Vedic astrology. It gives a mind that is calm, nurturing, emotionally stable, and spiritually oriented. These individuals are instinctive caregivers, mothers, counselors, priests, or protectors, regardless of gender. They find emotional security in routine, tradition, and spiritual practices, and are drawn to building homes, families, or institutions that provide shelter and nourishment. If afflicted, they may internalize burdens and neglect their own needs in the process of serving others. With Mars in Pushya, the fiery energy of Mars is grounded and disciplined. These individuals act with strategy, loyalty, and moral direction. Their courage is quiet but determined, and they often fight for justice, protection, or the well-being of the vulnerable. Mars in Pushya creates natural defenders, soldiers, doctors, or reformers, especially when guided by a spiritual or ethical framework. However, if imbalanced, this placement can result in emotional repression, passive aggression, or martyr-like overextension in service roles. Mercury in Pushya brings a mind that is thoughtful, introspective, and value-driven. These individuals communicate with kindness, depth, and clarity, often sharing wisdom that uplifts or heals. They make excellent teachers, counselors, writers, and administrators, especially in areas that involve ritual, history, or spiritual law. Mercury in Pushya blends intellect with emotional intelligence, though it may sometimes overthink feelings or suppress spontaneous expression in favor of decorum. When Jupiter is in Pushya, it is placed in a nakshatra governed by its own deity, Brihaspati, creating a deeply dharmic and spiritually aligned energy. These natives are natural guides, mentors, priests, or moral leaders drawn to uphold truth and serve the greater good. Jupiter here gives a love for sacred knowledge, tradition, and family systems, often making the person wise beyond their years. They are generous and humble, though in some cases they may become too idealistic or resistant to change. Venus in Pushya expresses love through devotion, loyalty, and service. These individuals are emotionally reserved but deeply affectionate once trust is established. They are drawn to relationships that offer emotional safety, shared values, and spiritual bonding. Aesthetically, Venus in Pushya prefers classic beauty, subtlety, and grace, often expressed through ritual, sacred design, or traditional art. The challenge here lies in letting go of emotional control and embracing vulnerability in love. Saturn in Pushya is a powerful placement that emphasizes emotional endurance, karmic responsibility, and quiet spiritual strength. These individuals carry a deep sense of duty, often taking on caretaking roles or becoming pillars in their families or communities. Life may place early burdens on them, but these trials forge maturity, humility, and resilience. Saturn in Pushya creates true elders, priests, monks, and protectors, but may also bring emotional hardness or isolation if the heart is not open through devotion and surrender. With Rahu in Pushya, there is a desire to gain respect, spiritual status, or moral authority, often through unconventional means. These natives may be drawn to alternative healing, secret teachings, or non-traditional family or social roles. Rahu here gives a fascination with structure and tradition, but also a tendency to question or reform them. If grounded, this placement can produce visionary mentors or social reformers. If imbalanced, it may lead to hypocrisy, emotional manipulation, or misplaced moral superiority. Ketu and Pushya suggests past life experience with ritual, spiritual service, or emotional responsibility. These individuals may be instinctively drawn to isolation, meditation, or renunciation, even within active family roles. Ketu here brings a quiet wisdom, but also the risk of emotional detachment or spiritual bypassing. The challenge is to re-engage with the world not from duty alone, but from heart-centered compassion, learning to balance inner detachment with outer devotion. Planets in Pushya Nakshatra are refined through the lens of spiritual service, emotional loyalty, and karmic responsibility. Whether through action, emotion, intellect, or relationship, each planet here is called to protect, nourish, and guide with patience, humility, and unwavering devotion. Pushya teaches that the highest strength is found not in force, but in silent, sacred care. The basics of Anuradha Nakshatra. Anuradha Nakshatra is the 17th lunar mansion in Vedic astrology, spanning from 3 degrees 20 to 16 degrees 40 He Scorpio. The name Anuradha translates to the follower of Radha, or the one that follows success, symbolizing devotion, disciplined growth, and loyalty in love and friendship. It is represented by a lotus flower, a symbol of purity emerging from the depths, signifying that Anuradha thrives even in emotionally intense or challenging circumstances. It is a nakshatra of emotional depth, spiritual dedication, and relational harmony, flourishing through inner resilience and outer devotion. The ruling deity of Anuradha is Mitra, the god of friendship and divine contracts. Mitra governs loyalty, cooperation, alliances, and shared spiritual purpose, giving Anuradha natives the ability to form lasting, trustworthy relationships based on deeper soul connections. Under Mitra's guidance, these individuals carry a diplomatic, unifying energy, capable of maintaining harmony even in emotionally volatile environments. They value bonds not just romantically, but as spiritual and karmic pacts, offering support, structure, and loyalty. Anuradha's Shakti is Radhana Shakti, the power to worship, honor, and develop devotion. This Shakti reflects the nakshatra's ability to channel intensity into devotion, whether through a relationship, spiritual path, or personal discipline. The energy here is not confrontational like early Scorpio. Instead, it is focused, inward, and emotionally refined, seeking transformation through loyal commitment and inner depth. Anuradha natives are often able to sublimate personal desire into spiritual service or dedicate themselves entirely to those they love or follow. The planetary ruler of Anuradha is Saturn, giving this nakshatra its signature blend of emotional discipline, patience, and endurance. Saturn teaches Anuradha how to handle intensity through structure, turning pain into wisdom and solitude into strength. While Scorpio often struggles with extremes, Anuradha brings balance, control, and quiet determination, making it one of the most emotionally grounded and spiritually evolved parts of Scorpio. The presence of Saturn helps these natives walk the path of spiritual responsibility with unwavering focus. Entirely placed in Scorpio, Anuradha reflects the sign's deep emotional undercurrents, but tempers its volatility with loyalty, maturity, and controlled vulnerability. The Scorpio energy here becomes less destructive and more regenerative, moving from trauma toward healing. These individuals know how to hold space in difficult emotional territory, often becoming therapists, spiritual guides, or healers through the strength of their own journey. Their Scorpio depth is not chaotic. It is sacred, intentional, and alchemically transformative. Natives of Anuradha are typically introspective, compassionate, and intensely loyal, often cultivating deep inner strength from an early age. They may undergo hardships or emotional losses that teach them resilience, and through these trials, they develop the ability to lead others with empathy and emotional intelligence. They are drawn to friendships and unions that feel fated or spiritually charged, and often prefer depth over variety in all things, quality relationships, meaningful goals, and soul-centered work. Anuradha's energy can at times become over-controlled, overly self-sacrificing, or emotionally burdened, especially if the native suppresses vulnerability in favor of control. However, when evolved, this nakshatra becomes a beacon of disciplined devotion, teaching others the sacredness of commitment and the power of enduring love and emotional integrity. Anuradha does not rush. It holds, protects, and builds over time. At a soul level, Anuradha Nakshatra represents the path of loyalty, love, and discipline fused with spiritual transformation. These individuals are here to build deep emotional foundations, to show that devotion is strength, and that sacred connection, whether to a partner, a purpose, or a path, is the lotus that blooms even in the darkest waters. Their karmic mission is to become vessels of healing through emotional mastery, showing the world how to turn pain into power and love into a spiritual offering. Anuradha Nakshatra characteristics. Anuradha Nakshatra natives are loyal, emotionally resilient, and spiritually inclined individuals with a powerful ability to build deep soul-based connections while navigating complex emotional landscapes. Ruled by Saturn and residing entirely in Scorpio, they combine the emotional intensity of their sign with the structured endurance of their planetary lord. This creates a personality that is calm on the outside, but layered with profound feeling and spiritual awareness on the inside. They are private yet deeply loving, often devoting themselves quietly to their causes, relationships, or spiritual practices. Psychologically, these individuals are disciplined, introspective, and capable of incredible emotional restraint. They often process their pain in silence, emerging stronger and more self-aware after each emotional trial. They have a natural talent for understanding the undercurrents of people and situations, which makes them excellent at reading emotional energy and holding space for others' struggles. Their minds are oriented toward growth through depth, and they often seek meaning in even the darkest phases of life. In relationships, Anuradha natives are deeply committed, faithful, and emotionally invested. Though they may take time to fully open up, they are not quick to trust, but once a bond is formed, they become unwaveringly loyal and protective. However, their intensity can sometimes lead to emotional possessiveness or hidden expectations. They value devotion and emotional depth over superficial affection and are often drawn to partners with whom they share a karmic or spiritual resonance. Their love is silent but enduring and often transformational. Creatively, Anuradha individuals are drawn to healing arts, spiritual disciplines, counseling, and depth psychology, as well as fields like astrology, mysticism, and transformative writing. Their creations often emerge from emotional wisdom or spiritual insight, and they express their inner journey through symbolic healing or contemplative forms. They work best when given solitude and time, as their creative process is internal and slow burning, often requiring emotional incubation and intuitive trust. Socially, Anuradha natives are selective and loyal friends, often forming few but lasting relationships. They are naturally good at mediating, counseling, or leading in emotionally complex environments. They bring stability to group dynamics by offering empathy without judgment and strength without ego. Others often sense their depth and approach them for guidance during personal crises. While they are not attention seekers, their quiet presence radiates trust and reliability, earning them deep respect over time. Emotionally, they carry a deep sensitivity that is often masked by self-control and protective boundaries. They do not seek pity or drama, and instead prefer to digest their emotions privately, often emerging from inner storms with greater clarity and spiritual maturity. However, if they repress vulnerability too long, they may struggle with emotional isolation or internal rigidity. Their growth lies in embracing emotional honesty, not just strength, and allowing themselves to be supported as much as they support others. Challenges for Anuradha individuals include emotional suppression, difficulty trusting others, and the tendency to carry others' emotional burdens silently. They may take on too much responsibility in relationships or struggle with letting go of pain and betrayal. However, when spiritually awakened, they become lightworkers and emotional anchors for their communities, embodying the Saturnian ideals of duty, devotion, and transformation through perseverance. At a soul level, Anuradha Nakshatra represents the alchemical process of turning pain into purpose and love into devotion. These individuals are here to demonstrate that depth is strength, commitment is healing, and the heart's quiet loyalty is more powerful than words or display. Their karmic path is to guide others through emotional darkness, not by bypassing it, but by walking through it with grace, trust, and inner discipline. They are the sacred guardians of spiritualized love and soulful resilience. Planets in Anuradha Nakshatra. When the sun is in Anuradha, it creates individuals who carry an inner sense of purpose, loyalty, and disciplined leadership. These natives express their identity through dedication, restraint, and spiritual ambition. They may rise to positions of power or influence quietly through service, reliability, and emotional maturity, rather than force or display. The sun here seeks to illuminate emotional truth, often expressing through mentorship, healing, or guardianship roles. If imbalanced, it can lead to emotional pride or isolation, but when evolved, it produces wise, noble leaders with integrity and inner depth. With the moon in Anuradha, the emotional body is deep, composed, and spiritually sensitive. These individuals often process emotion through quiet observation and devotion, and while they may appear reserved, their hearts carry loyalty, compassion, and profound emotional endurance. They are nurturing in understated ways, protective, patient, and attuned to emotional nuance. The moon here favors long-term emotional bonds, spiritual companionship, and selfless care, though if imbalanced, it can result in emotional suppression or difficulty trusting others. When integrated, this moon gives empathetic healers and grounded emotional guides. Mars in Anuradha is powerful but inwardly directed, producing individuals who channel willpower, courage, and focus into service, protection, and spiritual goals. These natives are quiet warriors, capable of deep resilience and strategic action. Their strength lies in emotional control and unwavering commitment, often directed toward causes that require both heart and discipline. Mars here may struggle with internalized anger or relational possessiveness, but when matured, becomes a force for spiritual protection, moral strength, and silent heroism. Mercury in Anuradha brings a mind that is penetrating, introspective, and emotionally intelligent. These individuals are careful with their words, speaking with purpose and emotional awareness. They are excellent at counseling, psychological analysis, and spiritual writing, often drawn to subjects that require empathy, discipline, and depth. Mercury here favors professions involving research, healing communication, or confidential consultation. When imbalanced, it can manifest as skepticism, emotional overanalysis, or verbal repression. In strength, it creates soulful communicators who speak truth with clarity and calm. Jupiter in Anuradha expands the native's capacity for spiritual devotion, ethical leadership, and structured wisdom. These individuals may be drawn to teach, guide, or protect, especially in areas that involve deep emotional or karmic transformation. Jupiter here brings a gentle authority, a desire to uplift others through consistent support, dharmic ideals, and soulful generosity. When afflicted, it may cause rigidity in beliefs or overly cautious idealism. But when balanced, it produces spiritual mentors, dedicated teachers, and silent sages. Venus in Anuradha makes for loyal, devoted lovers who express affection through service, consistency, and emotional presence. These individuals seek depth over display, and though they may be slow to open, their love is fierce, private, and enduring. Venus here is drawn to soulmate-level bonds, often with a spiritual or karmic undertone. Aesthetic expression is subtle and meaningful, favoring symbolism, classical beauty, and emotional resonance. Challenges may include emotional possessiveness or repression of sensual needs, but when balanced, Venus in Anuradha creates love that is deeply protective and spiritually nourishing. Saturn in Anuradha is dignified as Saturn rules the nakshatra. It brings karmic depth, emotional maturity, and a strong sense of dharma. These individuals are often tested in early life through loss, emotional responsibility, or delayed fulfillment, but they emerge with quiet strength and a deep capacity for leadership through service. Saturn here builds emotional fortitude, loyalty, and devotion to purpose, especially in caregiving, counseling, or spiritual disciplines. If unawakened, it can lead to emotional suppression or chronic loneliness. But in its highest form, Saturn in Anuradha gives rise to compassionate elders and karmic healers. Rahu in Anuradha intensifies the desire for emotional bonding, power through relationships, and spiritual evolution through connection. These individuals are drawn to intense partnerships, occult knowledge, and transformative experiences. Rahu here may push the native into spiritual practices, tantric paths, or karmic entanglements that challenge emotional boundaries. In early life, this can lead to emotional confusion or obsession. But when matured, Rahu in Anuradha becomes a catalyst for soul-level devotion and healing presence. Ketu in Anuradha reflects past life experiences of devotion, emotional sacrifice, and spiritual discipline, now seeking detachment from emotional over-identification. These individuals may feel naturally drawn to solitude, meditation, or behind-the-scenes service, often carrying an instinctive understanding of emotional energy and spiritual loyalty. They may initially avoid close relationships or intense feelings, but are meant to rediscover connection through conscious presence, not karmic repetition. Ketu here, when balanced, produces quiet mystics, soul guides, and protectors of emotional truth. Planets in Anuradha Nakshatra are refined through devotion, discipline, and emotional evolution. Each planet here is invited to channel its energy through spiritual commitment, relational integrity, and karmic responsibility. Anuradha teaches that true power is earned through loyalty, and real love is measured not in moments, but in the willingness to stay through storms, heal with silence, and rise through the sacred fire of soul-tested devotion. The basics of Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra is the 26th lunar mansion in Vedic astrology, spanning from 3D20 to 16 degrees 40 Pisces. The name means the latter blessed steps and is symbolized by the back legs of a funeral cot, suggesting stillness, final release, and the soul's journey toward spiritual liberation. This nakshatra carries the energy of withdrawal, containment, and contemplative awakening. It is where the inner fires that were ignited in Purva Bhadrapada begin to cool into quiet wisdom, and where transformation turns into transcendence. It is not about rebellion anymore. It is about resolution. The ruling deity of Uttara Bhadrapada is Ahirbudnya, the serpent of the deep sea, guardian of the underworld and the silent force behind latent spiritual power. This gives the nakshatra profound depth, emotional maturity, and access to energies beyond the surface of consciousness. The natives are often drawn to inner work, stillness, and the mysteries of life and death. Like deep waters, they may appear calm and contained, but underneath lies immense strength, sensitivity, and spiritual potential. Their power lies in patience and in the still force that can anchor the chaos around them. The Shakti of Uttara Bhadrapada is Varsha Ayanam Shakti, the power to bring rain or nourish life. This represents the sacred capacity to provide inner and outer support, to hold space for emotional healing, karmic dissolution, and spiritual growth. These individuals often act as emotional stabilizers, spiritual counselors, or holders of safe containers, both for themselves and for others. Their energy is not assertive, but sustaining, not demanding, but anchoring. This nakshatra nourishes quietly and over time, bringing slow but permanent transformation. Ruled by Saturn, Uttara Bhadrapada brings patience, discipline, and a karmic sense of responsibility to its Piscean domain. The influence of Saturn here is not harsh, but deeply reflective, teaching the soul through stillness, solitude, and quiet service. This nakshatra represents the wisdom of old souls, those who have seen life's illusions, transcended restlessness, and now walk the path of compassion, surrender, and detachment. It embodies Saturn's endurance without its weight, and Pisces' mysticism without escapism. Psychologically, Uttara Bhadrapada is introverted, spiritually inclined, and emotionally wise. The natives are natural observers, able to understand others deeply without needing to speak. They are drawn to still spaces, spiritual studies, sacred silence, or healing arts. Their growth often unfolds in solitude, contemplation, or in quiet service to others. These are the natural yogis, therapists, and monks of the zodiac, those who transmute pain into peace and who embody compassion not as a concept, but as a state of being. Uttara Bhadrapada natives are often healers, counselors, spiritual guides, or subtle reformers, people who work behind the scenes or below the surface. They don't seek recognition but are often respected for their wisdom and stability. They may also carry ancestral or collective karmas, which they are tasked with dissolving through their own spiritual work. These individuals have a quiet magnetism and often act as karmic anchors for those around them, holding the weight of pain until it can be transformed. Challenges for Uttara Bhadrapada include emotional withdrawal, passivity, or a tendency to become burdened by others' pain. These natives can sometimes suppress their needs, believing they must carry everything alone. They may also struggle with boundaries, spiritual fatigue, or periods of existential grief. Their evolution lies in learning to hold space for themselves as they do for others, and to accept that letting go is as sacred as holding on. Their power deepens not by doing more, but by becoming more attuned to the sacred rhythm of surrender. At a soul level, Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra represents the deep well of spiritual containment, the calm after the fire, the silence after the storm. These individuals are here to complete cycles, to hold others in sacred space, and to walk the final stretch of the spiritual path with compassion and grace. Their karmic task is not to create waves, but to still them, not to fix the world, but to heal the soul. They remind us that true liberation begins with stillness, and that the deepest waters run silent, strong, and full of peace. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra characteristics. Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra natives are calm, introspective, and spiritually mature individuals who embody the wisdom of containment, stillness, and deep emotional intelligence. Governed by Saturn and presided over by Ahirbudnya, the serpent of the deep, they radiate a mysterious inner depth that others instinctively trust. These individuals are natural stabilizers. Their presence is grounding, their energy is contemplative, and their soul is seasoned by lifetimes of spiritual practice or karmic responsibility. Whether as healers, counselors, monks, or quiet mystics, they are here to hold sacred space, not through force but through still presence. Psychologically, they are reflective, empathetic, and quietly resilient. Their minds tend to function like deep waters, slow-moving but profoundly insightful. They often need time alone to process, and they excel when they have space to observe rather than react. Uttara Bhadrapada natives are naturally intuitive, with a strong sense of inner knowing that arises from silence rather than stimulation. They are emotionally mature, though their default mode is internal absorption rather than expression. When balanced, they become wise containers for others' emotional processing, often guiding others without saying much at all. In relationships, they are loyal, dependable, and emotionally deep. Their love language is presence and support, not performative expression. They are drawn to soulful partnerships rooted in peace, compassion, and mutual emotional responsibility. However, they may struggle with boundaries, sometimes becoming overavailable or absorbing the emotional pain of others. If unbalanced, they may suppress their own desires or retreat into emotional numbness. When evolved, they offer unconditional love that nourishes and sustains, acting as quiet protectors and healers in their intimate connections. Creatively, Uttara Bhadrapada natives are drawn to disciplines that require contemplation, subtlety, and spiritual intention. They may express themselves through poetry, healing arts, sacred music, or ritual. Their creativity often carries a mystical undertone, seeking to heal or bring others into alignment with something eternal. They are not drawn to grand displays, but to the beauty of simplicity, the power of silence, and the elegance of precision. When they create, they invoke stillness, inviting others to pause, reflect, and feel beyond the surface. Socially, these individuals are modest, reserved, and inwardly focused. They are not socially dominant, but are often respected for their wisdom, integrity, and emotional gravity. People turn to them during periods of loss, crisis, or inner transition, sensing their ability to hold space and transmit clarity without judgment. While they may not seek the spotlight, they often become the emotional or spiritual backbone of their communities. Their guidance is felt more than heard, and their influence tends to grow quietly over time. Emotionally, they are tranquil but profound. They feel deeply, but their emotions are internalized and processed with care. Their greatest strength is their capacity to remain still in the face of chaos, to offer calm in times of emotional upheaval. However, if they do not allow themselves outlets for release, they may internalize too much, leading to fatigue, depression, or emotional withdrawal. Their path to healing lies in honoring their own emotions as sacred, not just holding space for others. Challenges for Uttara Bhadrapada include emotional overburden, passivity, or karmic exhaustion. These individuals often carry ancestral or collective weight and may unconsciously absorb pain from their environment. They must learn that being a vessel for peace does not mean being a martyr. Their growth comes through balancing containment with expression and service with self-nourishment. When they remember to tend their own sacred well, they become true embodiments of peace and spiritual endurance. At a soul level, Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra represents the final purification before liberation, the mystic who carries no need to prove, fix, or control. These individuals are here to conclude karmic cycles, to heal through presence, and to teach others that surrender is not weakness but mastery. Their dharma is to walk the final leg of the spiritual path with humility, to hold stillness as a sacred act, and to remind the world that the deepest wisdom is carried not in words but in the quiet, enduring light of the soul. Planets in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra. When the sun is in Uttara Bhadrapada, it creates individuals whose identity is tied to inner stillness, spiritual responsibility, and the desire to serve through quiet wisdom. These natives are not driven by fame, but by the deeper call of Dharma, often taking on roles that involve emotional maturity, karmic closure, or the holding of sacred space. If unbalanced, the sun here may feel dimmed or overly self-sacrificing, hiding its light to maintain peace. When evolved, it produces noble, compassionate guides whose strength lies in humility and the silent assurance of integrity. With the moon in Uttara Bhadrapada, the emotional nature is deep, steady, and spiritually refined. These individuals carry emotional wisdom far beyond their years, often acting as anchors of peace in turbulent environments. Their nurturing style is soft and consistent, rooted in holding space rather than controlling outcomes. However, they may become emotionally fatigued if they overextend themselves in caregiving roles. When balanced, the moon here offers tranquil emotional presence, the gift of emotional containment, and the ability to heal simply through being. Mars in Uttara Bhadrapada brings a disciplined, restrained, and spiritually aligned use of willpower. These individuals are not impulsive. They act after deep reflection, often channeling their energy into healing, teaching, or silent forms of activism. Mars here becomes the spiritual warrior, not one who fights outwardly, but who endures inwardly. If unevolved, this placement can result in repressed anger or passivity masked as peace. In its higher form, Mars in this nakshatra produces calm protectors, resilient spiritual workers, and those whose quiet courage moves mountains. Mercury in Uttara Bhadrapada gives rise to thoughtful, poetic, and often introverted communicators. These natives speak with emotional resonance and depth, often preferring writing, chanting, or teaching over casual conversation. They may be drawn to spiritual texts, philosophy, or the healing power of language. If imbalanced, Mercury here can become too silent, reserved, or hesitant to speak truth. When matured, it becomes the voice of compassion, measured, meaningful, and attuned to both divine wisdom and human suffering. Jupiter in Uttara Bhadrapada blesses the native with deep spiritual insight, quiet generosity, and the ability to guide others with compassion and restraint. These individuals often become wise teachers, mentors, or guardians of ancestral knowledge. Jupiter here matures slowly, often requiring solitude, loss, or karmic responsibility to ripen fully. If unevolved, it can manifest as excessive withdrawal, spiritual escapism, or over-reliance on tradition. When evolved, it produces the compassionate sage, steady, ethical, and luminous in their commitment to Dharma. Venus in Uttara Bhadrapada brings gentle, loyal, and emotionally rich love. These individuals seek soulful connection rather than surface romance, and often serve as emotional healers within relationships. Their sense of beauty is devotional, expressed through art, music, or loving presence. However, they may unconsciously attract wounded partners or take on martyr roles in love. When balanced, Venus here creates sacred lovers, devotional artists, and emotionally nourishing partners who love with grace and spiritual maturity. Saturn in Uttara Bhadrapada creates a deep, karmic commitment to spiritual growth, solitude, and emotional mastery. These natives often carry ancestral burdens or feel emotionally older than their peers. Life may offer them slow but steady development, often through service, spiritual discipline, or silent sacrifice. If unbalanced, it can lead to emotional suppression, isolation, or spiritual heaviness. In its higher form, Saturn here becomes the monk-like stabilizer, unshaken by hardship, grounded in timeless wisdom, and unwavering in their quiet service to humanity. With Rahu and Uttara Bhadrapada, there is a karmic drive towards spiritual power, emotional mastery, or institutional service. These individuals may be drawn to mystical teachings, psychic exploration, or healing work, especially when it involves hidden emotional patterns or karmic resolution. Rahu here brings ambition into the inner world, the desire to win enlightenment, recognition for healing, or mastery of silence. If unevolved, it can express as spiritual bypassing or veiled egotism. When matured, Rahu in this nakshatra supports the path of the mystic healer who leads others through the labyrinth of emotion into the light of truth. Ketu in Uttara Bhadrapada signals past life mastery of solitude, healing, or emotional detachment. These individuals may feel naturally detached from the material world and are often born with an intuitive understanding of suffering, compassion, and impermanence. They may avoid worldly roles or retreat into ascetic practices early in life. If unbalanced, this placement can produce escapism, apathy, or disconnection from personal relationships. When integrated, Ketu here gives rise to ascetics, mystics, and emotional alchemists who move through life quietly, carrying peace and karmic resolution wherever they go. Planets in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra express through stillness, surrender, and service. This is not a nakshatra of performance. It is a sanctuary for truth to settle, for karma to conclude, and for the soul to rest. Whether expressed through wisdom, love, discipline, or silence, each graha here is asked to become a vessel of patience and peace. Uttara Bhadrapada teaches that liberation is not found in speed or struggle, but in the quiet waters of acceptance, endurance, and the grace of knowing when to let go.